But Havlicek steals it. Havlicek stole the ball. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier. Down goes Frazier.
United to Amici. Amici powers in.
Won their 6th NBA championship.
Gibson swings. This is gonna be a home run. Unbelievable! I don't believe what I just saw.
I'm Pam Ward for Sports Century. Like the Japanese steakhouse for which he was named, Kobe Bryant is a product of privilege and was prepared for one purpose: to please the palate and satisfy the appetite. Raised in Italy by an extraordinarily close family, he seemed mature beyond his years. Possessing talent that some compared to that of Michael Jordan, Bryant jumped from high school to the pros, where he perfected a game and an image that burned brightest in the NBA galaxy. Then, as we'll hear in this edition of Sports Century hosted by Chris Fowler, Bryant fell back to earth, and the landing has jolted a nation.
I'm not Michael Jordan. There'll never be another Michael Jordan. He's the greatest player of all time, and nobody can fill his shoes, period.
Anybody who comes into the league with a game that at all emulates Michael Jordan's has been compared to Jordan. So when Kobe comes along and he's got incredible game and a game that is on the same kind of level as Michael Jordan, well then the immediate thought is, well, maybe this is the next one.
We got to find the next superstar. We've got to make this guy the next somebody. Where in the old days, they didn't make you, you made yourself.
It's terrible to try to put him in a class with a Michael Jordan when he hadn't played a game. Michael Jordan's the greatest player that ever played, and Kobe Bryant is making his own reputation, and he's trying to establish his own identity.
There was a media feeding frenzy. I just thought that that was not a thing to do to young Kobe. Let this young man develop into the extraordinary talent that it appears that he's going to develop into, and then we'll all enjoy the ride.
Dunked in by Bryant.
Jordan, look at that.
Michael Jordan. That is where you do the comparisons with Jordan.
And I've guarded Michael Jordan, and I've guarded Kobe also. Really can't tell the difference from them apart.
Everybody knew what Michael Jordan was going to do when he had the basketball. You just couldn't stop him. And it's a different situation with Kobe. You don't know what he's going to do because he hits you with so many different ways.
Bryant.
When he first came to the league, he had a bull head. Everyone was paying him the mic. His tongue came out his mouth. They blew that up like, hey, he's sticking his tongue out like Mike.
Between the legs, Kobe Bryant.
Look at him, check him out.
Deep down inside, I think he thought it was great because here you got a 17-year-old kid compared to the greatest player in the world.
Kobe Bryant is an unbelievably competitive person, and if there's one area that he reminds me of to some degree, that would be in the competitive area to Michael Jordan.
If you know the Lakers situation, they called him 23. That's his nickname. It was like the second coming of Michael Jordan. Whether he liked it or not, I don't know, but he didn't shy away from it.
If you think of Michael Jordan, when a lot of people thought he was at his peak as far as wisdom and cunning and skills and seeing the game, he was in his early 30s. And Kobe will be, what, 15-year veteran by then?
Despite the fact he's played in pain. Hits again! We're looking at a Michael Jordan-type performance.
If Michael took 500 jump shots, he took 1,000. If Michael got up and worked out at 8, Kobe was working out at 7:30. So he was trying to catch up to that and be beyond.
Kobe's probably the only player out there that really believes he can actually have a better legacy than Michael Jordan.
He speaks to Michael. He asks advice about how to deal with teammates, how to deal with media, how to deal with life, how to deal with being famous. He wanted to take the things that Michael Jordan did that made him successful and apply them to himself.
Even before he became the youngest player at 19 to start in the All-Star game, Kobe Bryant was emulating his role model at the tricky game of public relations.
Kobe had this image, even at 17 or 18, where he projected a maturity that I think belied his actual age. You know, he was very well spoken with the media, very eloquent, and even had some verbal mannerisms that were kind of Jordan-like.
He was way ahead of his time. I can remember distinctly watching him on the back of the bus, where everybody else is reading Sports Illustrated or sports section of the paper. He has Time magazine at 18 years old.
Me meeting Kobe for the first time outside the House of Blues in LA, he called me sir. Very well-mannered young man.
He understands certain things about the business that could only have come from living the life that he lived under his father and in his family.
After signing a lucrative 5-year contract with Adidas before he even played in his first NBA game, Bryant was embraced by a media in the hunt for another Jordan.
Please welcome Kobe Bryant.
This is a guy whose popularity is right up there with Jordan's, whose commercial appeal, whose personality, whose charisma are all right up there on that same plane.
You don't have to cut the lawn ever again, do you?
See, now the good thing about it, I get to give my parents allowance.
Yeah, oh yeah, give them allowance, yeah. That's it. You got a new car 2 years ago.
Now you forgot to take the trash out. Come on. You gotta work with me here.
Hey, I can play.
Do you know how?
I'm not bad.
He's tall. What do you think? All right, let's play! Hey, if we win, we get to go to McDonald's. So don't play.
Growing up in the suburbs, not necessarily being viewed as a street kid, he has a crossover appeal. He's a GQ cover guy, and yet when he's on the court, he plays like any kid in any inner city.
Kobe's marketability is probably the same as MJ's was back in MJ's earlier years. Both guys were attractive to the public.
Leading the Lakers to their 3rd straight title in 2002, Bryant was being billed as the league's most electrifying player. Just as important, he projected an image that enhanced not only himself, but also the NBA.
This is a guy who had everything. He had the grace, the style, the agility, the ability, the intelligence, pleasure to be around. So everybody, really took to this guy and fell in love with him. It's hard not to.
I think it's just a maturation process of understanding how they want you perceived as opposed to how you really are as a person. And it's become very vital for me to make sure that the message that's being communicated out there to consumers is the person that I actually am.
In 2001, Bryant married 19-year-old Vanessa Lane, and not quite 2 years later, they had a daughter, Natalia. Then, in the summer of 2003, Bryant's public image was severely fractured after a 19-year-old employee of a resort in Edwards, Colorado, visited his room.
Los Angeles Lakers All-Star Kobe Bryant arrested by Eagle County, Colorado sheriffs. Bryant complied with an arrest warrant, turned himself in Friday, July 4th, and will have to answer charges of felony sexual assault.
After 6 days of rumor, innuendo, and media speculation, Bryant attempted to contain the firestorm by reminding a reporter from the Los Angeles Times of his sterling image. "You guys know me," he said. "You know I would never do something like that." 6 days later, the Eagle County, Colorado District Attorney claimed otherwise.
The defendant was charged with 1 count of sexual assault. Penalties on this Class 3 felony are that if it's a prison term, it's from 4 years to life imprisonment.
This woman is alleging that he forced himself on her and he raped her. It's the second strongest count they could bring against him. The first would be if he used a weapon in the commission of the crime.
I'm innocent. I didn't force her to do anything against her will. I'm innocent.
The first thing I thought of was this couldn't be accurate. And then when you got a little more information and you found out that he was going to be involved in this, you were wondering, well, how could he have put himself in this position? Why would he have taken this risk?
I sit here in front of you guys, furious at myself, disgusted at myself for making a mistake of adultery.
I think that made it much more real to people, that this is serious. Now there's going to be a trial, and it knocked people on their butts. I think the fans, the organization, teammates, coaches, this just hit them like a rock.
We were led to believe that he was a very polished, mature, confident young man. We were led to believe that he was different from anyone else in the NBA. He coveted that. He nurtured it. I am not going to make those same mistakes. I am not that guy. I'm not the guy who's going to cheat on my wife.
Here's a man who now is admitting his mistake of adultery, who now finds his entire life, his well-being, now in the hands of a judge, prosecutors, DAs, lawyers, and ultimately a jury of 12 people. It's totally out of his control. Kobe's always used to being in control, and now that's relinquished.
I had heard a lot about this youngster who at the time was 13 years old. I invited him to scrimmage against our varsity. After 5 minutes of play against my varsity, I turned to my assistant coaches and I said, "This kid's a pro."
Kobe learned so much from his father on the court, just little things that only his dad as a professional basketball player could have taught him, like pinching you in the ribs to get a rebound or elbowing you in the right spot or holding your jersey.
As Lower Merion's JV coach, Joe Bryant concentrated on his son's every move on the varsity.
His father would yell something out in Italian, and he would kind of glance over at his father, nod his head, and then do something nasty on the floor.
Oh, no! Wow! Kobe Bryant is for real?
The first year here, they were 4-20, something like that. But he started. He was the first freshman starter here at Lower Merion High School in maybe 2-3 decades.
John Lucas, who at the time was coaching the Sixers, started coming to a lot of our games. Kobe got invited by John to scrimmage at St. Joe's University with some of the current Sixers.
He and Stackhouse played one-on-one, McDice. He played with all our guys, and Kobe was always at any workouts. Kobe showed up. He beat everybody. I said, the guy's a pro.
Averaging 31 points and 12 rebounds, Bryant took Lower Merion into the state playoffs, only to get knocked out in the semifinals. The taste of defeat was bitter.
We went in the locker room, whole team was crying. He said, "I hate this feeling." He said, "You know, May, next time we stop playing basketball, it's because there's no games left."
Bryant started his senior season with 2 goals. One was to win the state championship. The other was less public and considerably more ambitious.
The first day of practice, Kobe was reaching and grabbing and clutching a lot on defense. Kobe's first reaction when I was getting on him about reaching was, "I'm getting ready to play pro defense."
He's the best player in the country. He didn't know if he was going to go pro. Everybody wanted to go see Kobe play. Everybody.
All the top schools in the country would just come in. Every day the coaches would come with a new basketball letter from another team.
Kobe would get them at the end of school, and we'd all sort of sit out in this corridor hanging out. And Kobe would just give out letters to whoever, unopened letters.
After leading the Aces to the 1996 state championship, Bryant added a new dimension to his celebrity by taking TV and recording star Brandy to his prom. Meanwhile, colleges knocked on his door, but Bryant was looking to live his dreams sooner rather than later.
He really believed at the time, even at like 18, 19 years old, if I enter the NBA right now, I will be one of the 10 best players in the league.
Jordan and Barkley were getting older at the time, and it was one of his dreams to step onto the court and square off against players of that caliber.
Widely acclaimed as the finest prep player in the nation, Kobe Bryant could play basketball at any college in the country.
I don't think it's no rush to get him in the pros. I think that's his dream. I mean, what's rushing your dream?
He made a call to me to ask me, should I think about going to NBA? And I just said, "Then what did your father say?" He said, "Father said, go for it." I said, "Well, then you need to go for it."
No, I have decided to skip college and take my talent to the NBA.
He had his sunglasses on his top of his head, and I thought it was a little much. You know, here's a 17, 18-year-old kid kind of acting like he's Michael Jordan already.
For the next week, 98% of the calls going on sports radio and on the TV reports were, "This is the dumbest thing we've ever heard. Why is this kid doing that? I can't believe he's giving up a chance for an education."
It's an opportunity of a lifetime. I feel it's time for me to go out and seize it while I'm still young.
At that point in time, high school kids had really not been a part of the process of identifying NBA players.
We don't want them in the NBA. People don't want to babysit 18 and 19-year-old kids.
You got a lot of guys thinking that they're ready for the NBA when they really should go to college.
If you really have the talent, the college game will only enhance what you have.
My first thought was really that you'd like to see someone like Kobe get a couple of years of seasoning in college so that he doesn't have to spend as much time on the bench and he would grow a bit.
This is a kid who's smart, he's lived abroad, he's very comfortable with himself. If this kid doesn't go to college, who does?
With the 13th pick in the 1996 NBA draft, the Charlotte Hornets select Kobe Bryant from Lower Merion High School in Pennsylvania.
But even before Bryant was picked by the Hornets in the first round, the Lakers were interested in the high school phenom.
Just got a chance to just do some drill work with him. And then Jerry West says, Coop, let's go down the low post and work him out there. So I start guarding Kobe, and all of a sudden he's hitting me with all these elbows as he's turning. We knew then that he was going to be a good player.
West called me right afterwards and said, Chick, I got a guy I got to have. And then I said, who is it? He told me his name. I said, I never heard of it. He said, he's just coming out of high school. I said, you got to be crazy.
The thing that most impressed me about him was his ability to articulate the reasons why he wanted to play in the league.
We get a chance to spend some interview time with him behind closed doors, and all the questions we hit him with, he answered them appropriately, wasn't shy, was very candid about a lot of things.
15 days after the draft, the Lakers acquired Bryant in a trade for their starting center, Vlade Divac.
He knew that he could be a great player at this level, but it's your mental toughness that's going to keep you in the league, and if you keep yourself healthy, that'll make you a superstar.
Armed with sensational ability, a blistering work ethic, and a social sophistication beyond his 18 years, Kobe Bryant hit the City of Angels, where young stars often vault to the top or burn out in mid-flight.
The Lakers have always been looked at as one of the elite teams going back from the Wilt Chamberlain and Jerry West days, and the Showtime years with Magic Johnson and Worthy and those guys.
The first time I met him, he was thrilled to death, you know, because he remembered us back in the day playing, you know, to put that Laker uniform on. It seemed like that was probably the most exciting day of his life.
Physically, when he got here, he was good or better than anyone he played against. He had great size, great ball handling ability, great speed and quickness.
After we finished practice, he wanted to go, are they playing at Venice Beach? You know, Kobe, you just finished an NBA practice. You don't need to go play again. He wanted to go to high schools and play. He wanted to go to UCLA and play. His whole mentality was still play, 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 play.
I heard the ball bouncing in the form and the lights weren't on. And I walked past and I look in there and it's Kobe. You know, he's in there in the dark shooting.
Accustomed to being alone after a childhood in which he moved many times, Bryant suffered the pangs of an emotional solitude defined by age, or lack of it.
I didn't have anything in common with these guys. I mean, there's nothing to talk about. I was more focused on the game of basketball.
The difficult part about young kids jumping into this world, because it's really a man's world, the NBA, and obviously you might be able to play it athletically, but it's a mental thing and it's a social aspect that you have to deal with.
He just seemed to be a loner. He wasn't one of those guys that wanted to hang out all the time. Too young to go to bars and all that stuff.
If you didn't speak to Kobe first, he may not speak. And at first, I was kind of taken aback by that and almost offended.
It wasn't really to shy away from his teammates. He's just used to being alone. He got along with everybody, but at the same time, I don't think he really wanted to attach himself to somebody.
One of the players told me that they were told not to touch him. He was not to be hazed and not to be pushed, and it came from the top, and that caused some animosity.
He's got endorsement contracts coming in already. He's got an Adidas deal. He's already being put in commercials, and so, you know, there's a natural jealousy there that this guy who's not even established yet already has all this commercial attention. And so, yeah, there's some whispers behind his back, and they're giving him some gentle ribbing, and Shaq has dubbed him Showboat.
Showboat played a good game for his first game.
I really look forward to going out there.
Have you autographed Showboat, Bryant? I've been watching you a long time, man.
He kind of liked that name. You know, I don't think he understood that some guys say that you kind of represent him trying to be one-on-one and trying to do everything on his own.
Kobe was a little bit different because he had the game that no one on the Laker team had. He played the game with a real flair, and sometimes there was a little too much mustard on the hot dog.
Kobe don't do that. He would make a big play. Guys wouldn't be applauding. No one would come and greet him. There was no congratulations. The feeling was, hey, you think you're great. You think you're going to step on us. to be great. We'll watch, but we're not going to support you.
There's a pecking order in the NBA, and Kobe was just trying to do what he did in high school and not understanding that you have 4 other players that can get it done.
When I first came into the league, I was more trying to prove myself as an individual basketball player, and not really thinking about my teammates or trying to lead them, because that wasn't my role.
It was obvious that he was going to be a superstar, but first couple of years he made more turnovers than he did assists. He was a little bit too aggressive to shoot the basketball.
Bounce pass to Kobe, comes underneath, puts it up.
He viewed himself as a player who could come in and make an immediate impact. That's not going to happen for any high school kid.
You had a lot of people that could not stand Kobe Bryant. Darryl Harris wouldn't allow him to make fancy moves in practice. If he'd made a spectacular move, Darryl wouldn't even count the basket.
And he never got playing time. It was killing him, because in his mind, he's doing everything that he's supposed to do to get to that point in his career where he can shine.
That was part of Kobe's frustration as well, being the youngest guy and, almost feeling like his desire was greater than everyone's.
That desire would have its moment in Game 5 of the 1997 Western Conference semifinals against Utah. With the game tied and seconds left, the passionate rookie held the world in his hands.
Kobe Bryant will take it. An 18-year-old rookie. Short. No time remains.
Nobody else wanted to take that shot. Kobe was the only one to step up and say, I want to take this shot.
Bryant for the tie. He has shot blanks this entire overtime.
The Lakers at that particular time was looking for a go-to player. And going back to high school, his ball has been placed in his hands to do one thing, and that's to make something happen.
Got a chance if he gets close to foul. Bryant for the tie. Another air ball. And the Utah Jazz going to the Western Conference Finals.
After the game, he was very disappointed in himself. But the one thing I can remember is looking at this kid saying, man, he's going to come back next year, he's going to be even better.
In 1999, Bryant became a starter, averaging 20 points in the regular season. But his offense was not enough to keep the Lakers from being swept by the Spurs in the playoffs. Enter a new coach, whose insights and powers of persuasion guided the Bulls to a dynasty. Round ball guru Phil Jackson.
This is a team that is talented, it's young, it's on the verge. I just had a chance to meet Kobe Bryant. He's dedicated, he's competitive. He reminds me a lot of Michael Jordan, and there's not too many players that have ever done that in this game.
Jackson was unbelievably demanding of Kobe. He understood right away that this is a guy who's so tough and so strong that I can really go after him and he can handle it.
If you're lust to score and you have this ego problem that's getting in the way of the game, then you're going to have trouble. He's got too many players that he'd disrespect if he did it.
Phil's known as the master of mind games. Kobe looked at Phil when that became an issue and said, just coach. Just tell me what to do. You don't have to manipulate me. You don't have to motivate me. I'm in first gear, ready to go.
In Game 7 of the 2000 Western Conference Finals against the Trailblazers, Bryant posted 25 points, 11 rebounds, and 7 assists. But it wasn't stats that defined his maturity. It was poise in crunch time.
Bryant to shot!
You look at the dynamics of that play, and Kobe was trying to crash through the defense like he always had before, beat 5 guys and dunk it in everybody's face. But the difference was that he had learned that that's not the way to win it.
After eliminating the Blazers, the Lakers held a 2-1 lead over Indiana in the NBA Finals. Having sat out Game 3 with a sprained ankle, Bryant played in Game 4 and took over after Shaquille O'Neal fouled out with 2.5 minutes left in overtime.
Kobe's looking over at the big fella on the bench saying, don't worry about a thing, man. I got it.
Kobe just literally takes the whole game and just puts it on his shoulders.
How good is this kid? That was the performance that, up until that time, really, you'd only seen a player like Michael Jordan do. People in the stands in Indiana talk about, who is that guy wearing number 8? Is that a 23 and all of a sudden he changed jerseys?
Shaw, running one-hander, followed in by Kobe Bryant.
And now no one's asking the question, is he the next Michael Jordan? The question's been answered. He's it. He's next.
And the Lakers are the 2000 NBA champions.
The 2000 NBA Finals served to help heal the relationship between Kobe and his teammates. And it led to some early belief that everything was fine. But throughout Kobe and Shaq's tenure together at Los Angeles, the old ghosts have a tendency to revisit.
When opposites attract, you respect what is different about the other person. And with Shaq and Kobe, there wasn't that.
Shaquille and Kobe are very different personalities. Shaquille is very playful, and Kobe is a more serious person.
While Shaq is the older one and the bigger one, Kobe is by far the most mature and reserved. That's the way they approach basketball in a lot of ways. Shaq would look at Kobe and say, "Lighten up." And Kobe would look at Shaq and say, "Get serious."
There was a team meeting, and Shaquille O'Neal spent a lot of time saying, "We cannot win with Kobe Bryant." Of course, Kobe's sitting right there, and he took it.
Kobe was very young and impulsive, and Shaq just felt that he didn't really understand the importance of team play, the importance that Shaq played with the team.
These hard feelings built up over time. During a 2-on-2 pickup game, Shaq slapped Kobe. It was obvious that this was something that would never be forgotten. It was a hard moment.
Such episodes, not all of them with O'Neal, have tended to drive Bryant to achieve ever higher levels of play. After winning an NBA championship, he hardly took a breath before steeling himself for the next season.
I remember him saying he took 2 weeks off and went right back to training for the next year. Now, that's amazing. You're supposed to sit back and let people pat you on your back. He was right back in the gym.
Everybody on the team sort of had a bigger ego because they were champs. They all believe that their way is the right way.
Therein lies the adjustment, handling the success of a championship, putting the egos aside once again with the understanding that it's a team concept.
I felt like it was really my job to make sure the team was moving in the right direction and to really become more of a vocal leader.
When Shaq comes in, he's out of shape. He's gonna kind of cruise through the regular season. And Kobe comes in, he's been shooting jump shots every day, every hour, every minute.
Kobe said, "Okay, I can either reward myself for all the things I've done, or I can give it to this guy who can't get up and down the court and who they're going to foul at the end of the game. So tell me what I'm doing wrong here."
Sometimes I wish he was a little bit more diplomatic. Kobe's going to be Kobe. That's the one thing I've learned, I respect about him. He's very opinionated, but he's very honest.
Things finally hit their low point between Kobe and Shaq in January of 2001. ESPN magazine does a story on Kobe in which he basically says he doesn't want to have to contain his game anymore, that he wants to turn his game up, not down. And that was really when things completely blew up between Kobe and Shaq.
When everything went through me, the outcome was good. If the big dog ain't me, then the house won't get guarded. Period.
People wanted me to just kind of level off my play and not improve and just do the same thing I did last year. And I'm not going to do that. And I work too hard and I improve as a basketball player every day. And I want to show that I improve.
Shaq told me I'm too big to ride in the backseat of anybody else's car.
Kobe called other teams and said, is there any way that a trade could be arranged?
Phil Jackson just stepped back. He still allowed Kobe to be himself, and he allowed Shaq to be himself. And when they did clash and bump heads, he let them figure it out for themselves.
You almost get the impression that the two guys just can't stand to be in the same room together. And it's just not that way. It's almost like a family situation, like a big brother, younger brother situation where there are good days, there are bad days.
We had our moments where it was hard to play with one another, but we never disliked one another.
It wasn't so much that Kobe had to develop a relationship with Shaq as he had to develop a relationship with that entire team. Kobe had always kept to himself.
I can remember time and time again him getting a new CD, either before or after practice. He would sit in his car and just listen to the CD all the way through. Spend hours and hours just listening to music in his car.
A couple of times he would have his earphones on and no music just to hear what people are saying.
The guys on our team questioned whether or not, Kobe really wanted to be a part of our group and wanted to do what was best for not only him but for our team.
He plunged into very, very dark mood. He told me that the thing that was really tough, it was just very difficult to have worked so hard to be as good as he could be and to be misperceived by so many people as such a selfish arrogant, internally focused person.
In the spring of 2001, Bryant, hampered by a sore left ankle, began to slowly surface from his grim-minded self-determination.
I started to open up more to my teammates. I felt like I could trust them more, and vice versa.
You could see Kobe interacting with more guys on the bus, on the plane. You could tell that he made an effort to just be more responsive around guys.
Suddenly, they see the personality that he wouldn't let them see before. And he sees that these guys aren't out to get me. Maybe I need to lighten up. And maybe they need to get a little serious. Maybe we can meet halfway.
He's on a breakaway. He gives to Shaq, and Shaq slam dunk.
This offense that Phil Jackson designed, the first and many times the last option will be Shaquille O'Neal. And I think Kobe's accepted that and understood just how important that is for the success of this team.
Both of them came to realize that they needed each other. Shaq finally said, well, if we're going to have a championship team, I'd like to have Kobe Bryant on my club. And Kobe recognized that if we were going to have a good championship team, that Shaq had to be there.
One particular meeting, he stood up and said, he cared about everybody on his team, and he said, I love Shaq like a big brother, and always have, and, I just want to go out and play and have fun and win.
I told Kobe today he was my idol. He's playing. No, I'm serious. He's playing phenomenal. I think he's the best player in the league by far. We're very good friends, actually. We enjoy playing together to the point where sometimes Phil has to get on us because we're playing too much together. Our friendship has grown tremendously.
With Bryant and O'Neal playing together, the Lakers dominated the 2001 playoffs, winning a record 15 of 16 games on their way to a second straight NBA title.
They use their competitiveness to bring everybody else together to fight for that one common goal, which is winning a championship.
Back-to-back titles for the Los Angeles Lakers.
It takes two to make things go right.
He's more open now as a person because of his success, and once again, just growth and maturity. He's definitely a different ball player, a better basketball player.
But what I found out is that the game of basketball has really been a great teacher of life. Unending challenges, teamwork, doing things together.
His goal is to drive himself to be the greatest basketball player in the history of the game.
Anytime he has a challenge, he wants to conquer it. And he doesn't let anybody know that he wants to. He doesn't work out most of the time with the Lakers. He works out at different gyms, just so nobody is aware of that.
Kobe is a guy that if you ask him, he'll talk to you about certain things, but almost gives you the impression that, he's going to take care of his and his space, and you take care of yours, and when it's time for us to come together, we will.
I got Kobe to go out in Miami. He was engaged, he was talking, he was cool, and then he went south. It's 1 o'clock. I go, I know, it's cool. I said, man, he was like, no, 1 o'clock, I go back. I got training in the morning. Come on, dog, I told you 1 o'clock.
Basketball is his kid's life. That's all he ever wanted to do. I asked him, I think it was, what was the greatest Christmas present you ever got? And he went back, he said, I remember I got my first leather official NBA basketball. And how for years he slept with that basketball.
In 1999, after a very disappointing season, I asked him what he was going to do in the off season. He said, basketball. There is nothing else. 3 years later, I posed the question, has your life changed? He said, very much. I'm a married man now. I'm just learning what it means to be a husband, and someday I'll learn what it means to be a father, and I'm very much focused on basketball, but I see the bigger picture.
At a secret ceremony in Dana Point, California in April of 2001, Bryant and Vanessa Lane were married.
Kobe's a classic control freak. We were going to report that he had gotten married. He'd successfully hidden it from everybody, and he was extremely upset because he felt like he had the situation kind of under control.
I asked him, I said, why are you getting married so young? He said, I do everything young. I went pro young. I'm gonna have my children young. I'm gonna retire at 28 years old. Then go to Italy and play in my own squad. When someone dies, they go live for today, tomorrow's not promised. This is the only person that does it.
But what was publicly perceived as wedded bliss belied a serious division within the Bryant family.
His parents didn't approve of the marriage. She was young, She's Hispanic. He was raised so differently, so independently and headstrong. And I think that was just a butting of heads. It was his parents saying, you're not going to do this, and him saying, I'm an adult, and I am.
I'm responsible, and I mean, that's the way they raised me. So when it comes time to me moving out on my own and taking responsibilities on my own, that's exactly what I'm going to do. I'm not going to, you're not going to tell me what to do here or try to run this part of my life here.
Kobe knew he was growing, and he knew he had to grow. And you can't do that with your mom and dad and your sisters, you know, being that cohesive unit where everything revolves around them. You have to make that next step, and it was just a natural progression.
You know, all these great things were happening, winning championships, and start my own family with my wife, but you just want your parents there with you. That was the first time that I can remember playing basketball where it just wasn't even fun for me.
The family rift was mended in the spring of 2003 after Kobe's father, Joe, stated publicly that he wanted to meet his granddaughter. All seemed right with the Bryants again, but a far greater threat to family unity with far darker implications for Bryant awaited down the road, just weeks away. For a player possessed of such great talent, Kobe Bryant seems to have little feeling for the past. In the 2001 finals against the 76ers, he exhibited not a wisp of nostalgia at his homecoming.
He just didn't want the distraction of owning up to the pressures of playing in his hometown. So he just kind of brushed those questions off.
What about going back to Philadelphia, your old home?
I don't really care. You know, I just want to go down there and play and, you know, try to do what it takes to win the ball game.
Kobe, anytime he talks about playing on the road, he loves the hostility. He feeds off it. And I don't think it affected him in the finals that much, but it certainly affected him in that All-Star game.
8 months after defeating the Sixers in the finals, Bryant went home again to Philadelphia for the 2002 All-Star game. Although he scored 31 points and was named MVP, there was no love lost in Philly.
They booed Kobe Bryant.
It was so disheartening and so disappointing. Yet he stood up there, he acknowledged it, and he handled it with such class and such dignity.
I find it unbelievable that the fans are booing you here. Does that hurt your feelings?
Yeah, my feelings are hurt, man. I mean, I'm just out there trying to play and have a good time, and yeah, my feelings are hurt being from Philadelphia.
He's an articulate guy. He didn't have that kind of urban street sound to him. He sounded like a guy who was raised in a Philly suburb going to a private prep school.
There's this sort of ethos out there where basketball players are accepted or rejected at the street level. Kobe's not seen as hard enough. Kobe won't wear his hair in braids. Kobe doesn't hang out, you know, so Kobe equals soft.
I didn't grow up in the streets, but I played with a certain attitude, a certain aggression, and a competitive spirit and a tenacity.
Now we've got a fight. Reggie Miller and Kobe Bryant are going at each other at midcourt. The benches have emptied, and this is a major brawl.
He's going to have to make a stand because when you're really good, people don't like you. He just draw a line in the sand and say, I'm not backing down anymore.
In 2003, Bryant suffered through a season of discontent as the Lakers' quest for a 4th straight title ended with a loss to the Spurs in the second round of the playoffs. Then, with the suddenness of a Kansas tornado, the player who would be king of the NBA descended into a nightmarish whirlwind.
We have a lot at stake. I have a lot at stake, and that's not just, has nothing to do with the game of basketball. It has nothing to do with endorsements. Nothing at all. You know, this is about us.
This was maybe the first time in his 7-8 years in the public spotlight that we just saw the guy. It was the most human, the most humble, the most fragile we've ever seen Kobe Bryant, and it was striking.
This was a guy who was very private and wanted to maintain that privacy. And now with these charges, you know, everything's being uncovered and unturned. And a lot of things that I'm sure that Kobe probably didn't think would ever be looked at are going to be looked at.
Kobe Bryant was being held up as kind of this paragon of virtue almost. And so there's an uncertainty there that just captures everyone's attention and makes them think that, you know, the worst might be possible of even one of the best people they thought they knew.
On many levels, there's tremendous disappointment. People like Kobe Bryant, so it's very disturbing, very disappointing, very upsetting to them. That's why everybody wants in on this. That's why it has everyone's attention.
If he's acquitted, he lives with what he would consider, I think he would consider a stigma of you're just like everyone else. He was portrayed as the different NBA player. Well, now he's not. He's the same. And that's going to kill him.
When Kobe Bryant was charged with felony sexual assault, a Los Angeles Times columnist called it one of the most jaw-dropping days in that city's sports history. As for the NBA, the reaction has been measured. Bryant will be allowed to play while his legal fate is being determined. But since Colorado law requires that such cases be tried within 6 months of a not guilty plea, it's possible that Bryant will be sitting in a courtroom while his teammates seek to regain their former glory without him. I'm Pam Ward for Sports Century.